Good morning, traders. Today is Monday, May 23rd. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, let's dig right into the charts and see what we got here today. So yesterday, or Friday, was a massive sell-off in the market. Okay, we broke and made a new low. So we continued a downtrend that's been playing out in the market, both in terms of lower highs and lower lows on the daily, as well as the value area being lower to overlapping to lower. So that is an indication that the market is in a larger term trend to the downside on the daily. To break that trend, we'd need to see a daily make a new high and a higher low, as well as break the downtrend in the value. So we need to see a value area that's up higher. Otherwise, we assume that that downtrend remains intact. It's also worth noting the low yesterday, or on Friday, was a poor low. So that means that we may not have completed the auction to the downside. Now, that being said, when I zoom out and look at the daily, you know, that's a pretty big wick down there. And we've had a few of them in this area. So maybe that was a short-term capitulation. And so the way that we can guess if that's what's taking place is, can we get back up in this previous balance area that we had just above us here? The breakout of that balance is what led to the excess to the downside. So as we head back up this morning, do we test that balance area low? And if we do, can we break back up into that previous balance? We got a potential downtrend here. There's a couple of them on the daily. There's the longer term one up here, which would probably meet with price around the 40, 80s. Or we've got a shorter term sort of channel happening on the daily here. So I'm looking for resistance right about at that balance area high. So the big question for this morning is, do we break back up into that previous balance area? I got that low marked at 39.52. So can we get back up in there this morning? If so, we can look for continuation to the opposite end. If not, if we get resistance at the same area the overnight did, we start to target a continuation of this downtrend. Okay, so I'll be looking for support this morning, right around this area where this big node is. So we could call it Friday's closing price, 38, about 3,900. So 3,900 to me, there's some potential support in there for a bounce to try to get back up into that balance area. But if we cannot find support here, likely the downtrend will continue and we'll get more selling today. We are opening inside the previous day's range, so that increases the odds that we will get chop here at the open. Getting above yesterday's high, getting above Friday's high at 39.41. Coming back down and finding support would be bullish. And then also same thing with the overnight high, because that brings us back into the balance area. If we can push above that overnight high and bring in support, that is very, very bullish for a trade to the opposite end of balance, which is all the way up there at 40.44. It's important to remember that if we do get a bullish move on the daily, if we get back up into balance and we start to push higher, it's not necessarily bullish on the, bigger picture. There is still a lot of downward momentum in the market here, but we may be due for a little bounce. So we'll see what we get. All right, the market is open. So the first move we're looking for is a push lower, as the overnight inventory was net long. We're looking for a move to try to balance off some of that overnight activity And then can the market find support above yesterday's close at 3,900? All right, let the chop begin. Good morning, Cyrus, Philip, Eldora, Scooball, Being Prosperous, FRM, David Glass, T-Bay, and Rev in the house. Welcome, welcome. MW, good to see you. Crypto Mojo is here. Boss Man. JG with the GM. The Shaw. David V is here. Blue shirt back with us. TV. Jack is in the house. Giles, Nor Auto Trading. John is here. Boss Man, Arthur. Dean, my internet is being worked on. All right, well, thanks for stopping by, brother. We'll see you next time. Mickey, good morning and welcome. Caffeine is here. Good to see you. Nilesh, welcome. Greg H. in the house. Jeff is here. Boss Man, the birds are chirping. Yeah, they're always chirping. Can you guys hear somebody put up wind chimes over the weekend? Who put up those wind chimes? Don't you know I live stream? Good morning, Rugsy, JB, Levi, JT, J Trader, Overlord, Low Goldfish. Welcome back, Low Goldfish. And welcome to O-Town. Nilesh, did yesterday's auction create excess? Jim Dalton had posted on Twitter. Well, that's the thing. It kind of looks like excess if you look at it on the daily. Right? Whoops. If you look at it on the daily, it looks like a nice wick down there. You know, it looks like a nice bit of excess. But if you look at it on the market profile, then you see that you left behind that poor low down there. And that is not good excess. All right, well, this low seems to be holding pretty well. We can see from the ticks we're absorbing that net long overnight activity, but the price isn't really pulling back that much, and every time we do, we create this good taper on the low. So I don't think we've quite put in a low yet, but it feels like the market is building up some support here. All right, so now that we're back at the zero line, we've had a chance to absorb some of that overnight long activity. Do the buyers step in here and get us back above the opening price? If they can get back above the opening, they should be able to try to test yesterday's high, Friday's high. All right, we appear to have new sellers. So next support is going to be this area right around yesterday's closing price, around 3,900. Screwball, single prints below us at yesterday's B period? Correct, yeah. Those were actually single prints to the downside, though. So they would have been resistance on the way, they would have been resistance on the way up, but not necessarily support on the way down because they were single prints to the downside. But good catch. Xavier, good morning to you. Welcome. Arthur, bears are trying to bring us back down to Friday's. Well, we're in Friday's range right now. But I wouldn't say this is the bears piling on. That move down felt more like long liquidation, more like people who had gotten long in the overnight taking profits. All right, so once again, as they work their way through the open, that increases the odds. They'll be able to test that overnight high. I'm sorry, that Friday high. Right there at 39.41. If they can get above that, come back down and find some support, that will be bullish for continuation to the upside. Of course, if they push above and they don't find support, more chop. Anita, good morning to you. Welcome. We've got 163 people hanging out. Welcome, everyone. If you don't mind pushing that thumbs up button, I sure would appreciate it. It might even be enough to get us above Friday's high. That positive momentum in the chat could do the trick. Smash that like. Let's see what happens. Design knob, I pushed it. Thanks, brother. Gunk, good morning to you. Welcome. All right, so obviously this is not great taper at the high now. We are getting resistance, but it feels like they need another push up to get some better taper up there. Remember, anytime you see a volume cliff like that, an exact level where they're selling, piling on right there, always imagine to yourself what will happen if they pass through that to the upside. What will happen to those sellers that were piling on right there? Likely they would have had very tight stops. So they'll get stopped out and the market gets a pop higher. There you go. Jeff, the like button is trending up. Let's see if we can keep that trend pumping for the first hour of trade. See if we can get over 100. Triple digits in the likes. JD, it's my pleasure. Thanks, brother. Rugsy, feels like rotation. Too early to know, but it feels rotational. I would disagree. Obviously, this is chop that we're experiencing now. This is rotation. But I think the market's going to go somewhere today. I think there's going to be some movement, either higher or heading back down towards the lows from yesterday. I don't think we'll just rotate in here. And the first clue that it'll be to the upside would be getting above yesterday's high, which we now are. We need like one more pop, but then come back down and find some support there. That would be bullish. All right, so now we're testing that support. Do we get buyers stepping in here right around yesterday's high, Friday's high? All right, we're getting some support. All right, well, at this point, I am bullish as long as we stay above this little node of volume right around the halfback. So I'd say as long as we stay above 39.28, it feels like we got some momentum going here. If we break back below this node right in here, then we're going to head back down. So I'll be back to a neutral stance. But if we can find support in here or up here, I am bullish to try to get above the overnight high and then look for support up there. Dean, thank you for the colorful display. Since my internet is down, I might as well be useful. There you go. Hype the chat. Okay, so once again, support at yesterday's high. Bullish to see. Scooball, can it begin the trend? Yeah, I mean, if we can get back into the previous balance area, and get new buyers up in there. Now, we may just poke in and fail and pull right back down. That, of course, can happen too. But if we can get back up in there and find support, that would be extremely bullish. And we could get a trend day to the upside. But as always, price going up there means nothing. We have to have volume as well. We have to have support, confirmation of the move before we get too excited. All right, looking for support here. We've got a node of volume to act as support. We've got the opening price and the halfback. Lots of confluence for buyers to step in. If they want to go test that overnight high, this is where they should step in. John Lash, off topic, Mission Possible trailer just dropped. Very cool. I'll have to check it out. 7-7 Athletic. We trade value, not price. There it is. Speaking of which, value is higher today. Now, value is obviously developing throughout the day. So if the market, breaks lower, it can pull value down with it. But if we're able to stay up here, we will have broken the downtrend in value, which is a little tiny bit bullish. Pavel, good morning to you. Welcome. All right, if this node of support that we're in right now breaks and the market starts to head lower, heads below like 26, we're likely heading down towards yesterday's closing price. Down there at 3,900. Rocket Cumulative Delta said hell no at the top. Yeah, well, the buyers are getting weak here. They're getting beat up. So we got this support down here right around yesterday's closing price, around 3,900. If that breaks, things get very, very bearish below there, as this would be a look above and fail of the previous day's range. All right, well, with that support breaking, I'm back to neutral. And looking to if we get support around 3,900. All right, so let's start running through some of our market generated information here. Value is higher than yesterday. That's a little bit bullish. But we looked above yesterday's high, did not find support for continuation to the overnight high. So in a when what should happens doesn't, that's a little bit bearish to see. If the B period breaks the A period low here, we will have the initial balance to the downside. So that's a little bit bearish. And then we've got our last, major support right in here around yesterday's closing price. So if that breaks as well, that will be a bearish signal that the market wants to head lower. Oh, and the look above and fail of yesterday's high. We also now have the internals trending lower across the boards. WSS gap at 39.98 wants to fill. I don't usually think about those as gaps. The little jump between like Sunday and Sunday night or whatever. So no, I don't really pay much attention to those. It might do today, but not because there was a gap. Lee, can I talk about NQ? Sure. All right. Well, NQ, same as the ES, opened above yesterday's closing price, but only a little bit. So it didn't quite have as much momentum in the overnight. They did not test yesterday's high or the overnight high. And the value area is now overlapping to higher. So that is neutral to bullish as opposed to being outright bullish. You got some support just below you around the halfback from yesterday, 11,770. May look for a little bounce there. If that starts to break, probably heading down to repair the poor low. I would say certainly if like 11,727 breaks, you're heading lower. And that becomes the target down there at 11,491. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, NQ looks a little bit more bearish than the ES. Will the buyers step in at 11,775? Nilesh, look above and failing to clear yesterday's high. Correct. And odds of breaking yesterday's low. Well, yeah, a look above and fail of a previous day's range does slightly increase the odds you're going to head down towards the low of the previous day. And the fact that the low is poor increases the odds it'll get a repair. But they've still got some support in here. Let's see what happens at yesterday's closing price. If that breaks, then we'll start to talk about the poor low. Nilesh, what about watching initial balance on the weekly, monthly time frame? Does that time frame work? Well, the initial balance refers to the first hour of the trading day. So there's no initial balance for the weekly, unless you're saying like the first 2 days of the week or something like that. And I've never looked at that. Nonetheless, initial balance for the weekly is the first two trading days. No, I've never looked at that before. To me, that seems like, looking too hard. But I mean, it's worth taking a look at. If you see a pattern in it, you could consider it. But yeah, no, I'm more focused. Really, I look at like the daily or the weekly to kind of give me an idea of what's been happening up until this moment. But once that opening bell rings, all the information I need is available right here in front of me. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. All right, so we're now looking for what was support, this node right here, and the halfback to become resistance for another push lower. Oren, after the digital course, will I be able to identify and translate, like you, what is happening in the market? Yes and no. So every single thing I look at to help me understand what's happening in the market is taught in the e-course, except for the internals, but I talk about those here. But will you be able to do it as good as me as soon as you finish the course? No, you will not, right? You're going to have to spend a lot of time practicing. So the analogy that I always use is like learning to play an instrument. I could teach you all the chords on guitar in a single afternoon. In a 4-hour video, I can teach you everything there is to know about the market profile and the two-way auction process. But just teaching you the chords does not make you a good guitar player. You then have to spend time practicing. You have to put in the months and months of work to get as good as me. But you absolutely can. Johnny Be Good, it's called saddle time, I assume, in terms of learning to ride a horse. All right, well, I would expect resistance to pile on here. If we're able to get back up through the opening price once again, I will be quite surprised. And that would, in my mind, increase the odds of rotation sideways or another attempt to break out to the upside. All right. Well, it's back up through the opening price. That is bullish to see. So same as before. Are they able to get back above yesterday's high? If so, do they find support? If they do, you can target testing the overnight high. There is, of course, always door number 3, rotation sideways in a tight range. But as I mentioned earlier this morning, I don't think that's what's going to happen today. Another day like this. I'm pretty sure this market's looking to break one way or another. So either we break the support here and head back down towards yesterday's lows, or we break above yesterday's high and head higher. I don't feel like we're going to go sideways. But at the moment, there's not a clear signal which direction we want to break. Tom, do you take trades during the live stream? I do take trades. I don't show them on screen. I take them on a separate computer. Screwball, we had some liquidation after failing to find support at the opening. How strong are the hands now? To me, it's completely uncertain. We're now in just chop mode. So anytime the market is trying to make a move, right? Say it was trying to move higher. It pushed up here. It came down. It found support. It pushed up above yesterday's high. It came down. It started finding support. If it wanted to trend higher, it should have found support there and gotten continuation higher. So when it came back down through the halfback again, we knew, okay, there's no momentum to the upside. So now we assume, okay, there must be momentum to the downside. So the next target must be testing the support down here. But then they come down, they make good taper, and they head right back up through that halfback again. So that just tells us no one is in charge. Buyers or sellers, it's just guessing right now. And they have not picked a direction. So my guess is weak hands on both sides. But there's probably some stronger hands waiting to step in once the direction is chosen. Barbecue. Barbecue. This market is whack-a-mole today. Yeah, at this moment, that's what it is. It's a scalper's market. Chadrabai, support from India. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Oh, man, we made it to 106 likes. Look at that. Pumping the likes. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. All right, so as we work our way closer to that 11 a.m. moment, or sorry, the 10:30 moment, when we switch on over to the private stream, the question that I have for the chat, what's the market going to do today? Are we going to get above yesterday's high, find some support, and look to break back into the previous balance area for a big push higher? Are we going to break the support around yesterday's closing price and head lower to repair that poor low we left behind yesterday? Or do you think we're just going to rotate around sideways in a tight range like this all day long? Take the survey in the chat and let us know. Completely anonymous. We won't know what you picked. Where do you think the market's going to go? Chris, how was my weekend? It was good. Thank you, brother. All right, we got almost 200 people here. Only 60 have voted. Get your votes in. Where do you think the market is going to close today? Higher, lower, or just rotating around sideways? All right, the results are in. 44% of people think the market's going to go higher. 30% think we're going sideways. And only 24% think the market is going lower. So if you want to fade the chat, you want to be short the market. Share market. Our market started falling. The Nifty 50 is in the danger zone. Oh no. Oh, you guys are fine. You're in like a giant balance area right now. Yeah, so like the look above and fail of the balance area today. So if they can't get back above like 16,300, that's a look above and fail, and you would just target the opposite end of balance. Target 15,750. That's a beautiful little balance area. All right. Well, speaking of beautiful little balance areas, we created a poor high here in the C period. So that increases the odds that this is just a push away from the poor high that's looking for support to come back and take out that A period high. Doing so will begin the process of one-time framing higher. And I would say you could target the overnight high. And as I've been saying all morning, if we can get above there, come back and find some support, staying inside that balance area, so staying above 39.52, that is extremely bullish. But if we just poke above there and then pull back down into the range, that is bearish as a look into a previous balance area and fail, which, would be bearish. So things are looking a little bit bullish, but they've still got to prove themselves. With that, I shall bid you all farewell. Just a heads up, this week I will only be live streaming today and tomorrow. I'm taking the rest of the week off. Going to New Orleans for a wedding. Pretty excited. So I'll be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, but then not Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you are in the brigade, I shall see you in the private stream. The rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for those likes, and have a great rest of your day.